For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Supporters of a bill to raise the minimum age from 18 to 21 for possessing a semi-automatic assault weapon gathered at the state capitol. Here's that event.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here today. I'm Nancy Nord-Bentz, Executive Director of Protect Minnesota, the only independent state-based gun violence prevention organization. We are here with our friends and partners from Moms Demand Action and key legislators to introduce an exciting new bill. To do that, I introduce Senator Ron Latz.
Thank you and good afternoon. We all know about the shooting in Parkland, Florida, and the way the kids have been leading the nation in calling for reforms to our nation's gun laws, efforts to reduce violence in the schools, of course, and all around. Too frequently, assault weapons have been used in these assaults in the schools, as they were in the assault at Las Vegas. But these are weapons of war. And we don't allow our young people to carry weapons of war unless they're in the military as a general matter. But current law in Minnesota allows our young people to purchase and carry assault weapons, sometimes referred to as SAM saws, military assault weapons, when they're 18. That doesn't make any sense to me, and it doesn't make any sense to a lot of people who are advocating a reduction in gun violence around the country. I saw that bills in other states were introduced, and discussion was going on about this, and so I thought we ought to do the same here in Minnesota. So this bill increases the minimum age for possession or transfer to a person to the age of 21. Under current Minnesota law, you can possess a pistol at age 18, even with some exceptions under the age of 18. You can possess a long gun for hunting at 16, and with some exceptions at the age of 14. You can currently possess an assault weapon at age 18 as well. And if you can't drink until you're 21, if we as a society have made a determination that a person does not have the judgment until they're 21 to drink safely as a general matter. If you can't, in some communities now, purchase cigarettes until you're 21. You can't have a license to drive until you're 16. We have minimum ages set aside for a variety of reasons. And this bill will set that minimum age for possession or purchase of an assault weapon at 21. If you violate the law, it's a 5-year, $10,000 felony crime. And similarly, under this proposal, if you transfer a firearm, an assault weapon, to someone who is under 21, subject to the exceptions, it's also a felony crime. Now, the exceptions are consistent with other exceptions that we find in the gun statutes. If your parent or guardian is present and overseeing your use and possession of the firearm, if you're using it while engaging in a military drill, if you're a member of the armed forces and using it within the scope of your duties as a member of the armed forces, and if you have been honorably discharged from the armed forces. Now, there probably won't be too many of those who have been honorably discharged by the age of 21. But that came up in a conversation, and we thought that was also appropriate because at that point they clearly at least have been well trained in how to handle such a firearm. So that's the gist of the bill. We think it's time, and we think this is going to be a bill that's going to generate bipartisan support. The governor indicated his support for this bill as a part of his package of gun-related bills to reduce gun violence, as well as school safety-related measures. And I'm encouraged that we may have a chance this year to get this and some of our other bills that are in the same vein passed into law. I would now like to introduce Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, who's carrying the bill in the House.
So I am a gun owner. I'm a hunter, and I received my first gun at age 12 after passing my firearm safety course. It's a .243 rifle, and I still hunt with that gun to this day. It's a lower caliber gun as far as hunting is concerned, but that's all you need to hunt deer. And this bill today does not apply to that .243 rifle. Today, we are talking about weapons explicitly designed to kill people and to kill people as quickly as possible. So in the time since I first started speaking here right now, one of these assault weapons could have fired approximately 45 rounds. It only takes one bullet to kill a person, and these weapons are designed so that a bullet might end up killing more than one person. So that's everybody in this room, or every child in a classroom, or everybody in a movie theater in just a minute or two. Average citizens, and especially teenagers, don't need to have that amount of access to that type of firearm and that amount of killing power. And I know that we can't prevent all gun violence, but we can and we must prevent what we can. The fact that this won't stop every single incident of gun violence is not a reason to not do it. And I ask you to think about the value of just one human life that could be saved by this measure. What is the value to that person's mom and dad, or that person's kids, and that person's community overall? This bill is constitutionally sound, it's reasonable, and it's necessary. Now is the time to step up and do something. Yes. We had thousands of young people here at the Capitol yesterday because it is time to do something. We can prevent gun violence. We can save lives. And I encourage everyone to support this bill because that is what this bill does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm so pleased to introduce Dr. Thomas Kotke. He's the chair of the Twin Cities Medical Society. If you noticed this morning, the Minnesota Medical Association has published a new statement in which they call for an all-over ban of assault weapons. Dr. Kotke, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. I'm Dr. Thomas Kotke. I live in St. Paul. I practice cardiology in Minneapolis. I'm president of the Twin City Medical Society, and I support this bill because it makes sense neurobiologically. Brain development is very rapid in the first 3 months of life, a little slower in the first 3 years of life, but it's not complete until the age of 25. And so judgment and impulse control is not present until the age of 25. It's not fully present. The frontal lobes are not hooked up to the rest of the brain. And so raising the age, although, like mentioned, no single bill will totally eliminate gun violence, but directionally, we will be safer with this bill because it will close that gap by 3 years between 18 and 25. This is directionally consistent with the position of the Minnesota Medical Association, and so I encourage you to support this bill because it will make us all safer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is common practice to set legal ages for activities that require maturity, such as voting, driving, and drinking alcohol. Purchasing and possessing a semi-automatic military-style assault weapon should certainly necessitate the same or greater ability to act responsibly. Recognizing that some forms of firearms present a greater threat to public safety than others, Minnesota law already prohibits those under 21 from possessing a pistol. However, current law allows those 18 or older to possess a semi-automatic military-style assault weapon, which has far greater lethality. This bill corrects that dangerous inconsistency without interfering in the rights of young adults to hunt or participate in sports shooting activities. Young adults account for a disproportionate amount of gun violence. As the doctor mentioned, the frontal lobes aren't always all hooked up, and we see that that is true in the results when we come to violence. 18 to 20-year-olds commit gun homicides at a rate 4 times higher than adults age 21 and older. In light of these findings, it only makes sense that those under 21 would be prohibited from possessing semi-automatic military-style assault weapons. Now, I know that the gun lobby will cry foul at this bill and will say that it will restrict the rights of young adult hunters by unfairly singling out those weapons because they look scary. They love to tell us that we're afraid of how these guns look. But the reality is we're afraid of the damage these guns can do. These weapons are designed to be lightweight, accommodate high-capacity magazines that can hold up to 100 rounds, and shoot at great speed and with great power and accuracy. Because of these attributes, semi-automatic military-style assault weapons have become the go-to firearm for mass shootings, having been used at Parkland, Sutherland Springs, Las Vegas, Orlando, San Bernardino, and Newtown. These weapons can injure and kill more people than other firearms. The proof is in this sad statistic. 135% more victims were shot, and 57% more victims were killed in mass shootings when assault-style weapons or large-capacity ammunition magazines were used compared to other mass shootings. These guns kill more people more quickly. These weapons are far more powerful than other firearms. In Sutherland Springs, the shooter killed many of his victims by shooting through the walls of the church from the outside. They are so powerful that they can puncture police body armor. 1 of every 4 law enforcement officers slain in the line of duty in 2016 were killed with a semi-automatic military-style assault weapon, and of those deaths, 1/4 involved the bullet puncturing the body armor that the officer was wearing. These weapons do far greater damage to the human body than other guns. They shoot lightweight, high-speed bullets that can cause grievous bone and soft tissue wounds, in part by turning sideways when they hit the body, so they create these massive injuries. But civilian owners can also buy soft-nosed or hollow-point ammunition that can expand and fragment on impact. Such bullets, which cause wider, even more devastating wound channels, are prohibited in most military use by the Geneva Convention because they do too much damage to the human body. In short, the NRA's claim that semi-automatic military-style assault weapons are no different than hunting rifles is a blatant lie, as every responsible hunter in this room knows. These weapons were designed for one purpose only: to grievously injure and kill as many human beings as possible under the conditions of war. With the Minnesota Medical Association, and I might add 67% of all Americans, Protect Minnesota supports a federal ban of these weapons. And now we call upon our state legislators to pass this bill and raise the minimum age to purchase and possess these weapons in Minnesota to 21 years old. As the senator said, if 20-year-olds are too young to drink a beer, they are too young to possess military-style assault weapons. Any questions?
Do either of you have a hearing promised to you?
Well, we're working on that. I met with the Judiciary Chair in the Senate, Senator Limmer, last week, urging hearings on all of the gun-related bills that I have introduced. And he said basically his leadership will make that decision. And I think that's true. I mean, this is a very hot political issue. And I think both in the House and the Senate, the leadership is going to have to make a decision on how much heat are they willing to stand, and what impact might it have on the upcoming elections for the House. I mean, these are the political realities. They're going to be factoring this stuff in and looking where their vulnerable members are. So ultimately, I think the public pressure, the pressure from businesses, the pressure from the health professionals, the pressure from the kids. Boy, 2,000 or so kids the other day showed up here, and we haven't even gotten to March 4th to the big walkout that everyone's talking about, right? So I think the public is really paying close attention to this now.
Ken, given the history of this, I ask you, the Senator and Representative, is there any chance that this bill can move forward this legislative session? I'm sorry, but the record isn't good on it, and you know that as well as I.
Well, the record isn't good, but I think we have a real good chance this year.
And the reason being?
I would encourage folks to ask Speaker Dowd and let him know what their priorities are. And this, the House bill is being introduced today. We'll certainly be requesting a hearing, and you know, it's really up to the public to let their legislators know what they want them to do about this problem.
Both of you mentioned this should be a bipartisan effort. Do either of you have co-authors from the other side of the aisle yet?
I don't yet. Of course, we only have 5 slots on Senate bills. I am told that there is now a Republican author on the criminal background check bill in the Senate. One of the clone bills that was introduced following mine, Senator Jensen has signed on to it as a co-author. I would expect we'll see others follow his lead.
Representative?
On the House side, Representative Anselmo has certainly been an advocate for this issue. As I mentioned, this is just being introduced today, but I'll certainly be asking him to join us.
I want to add one clarification while we've got a moment, because I had a question about this and I looked into it. Some of you may have noticed I said that in Minnesota law, 18-year-olds can possess pistols, and Reverend Nordben said it's 21. To be more specific about it, under federal law, a 21-year-old, you have to be 21 to purchase a pistol from a licensed dealer. So in effect, federal law overrides the purchase of pistols compared to Minnesota's 18-year-old threshold. You can still possess the pistol at 18 in Minnesota. You just can't purchase it.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Can you contrast what these bills will have compared to what Florida passed with regards just to the age restriction?
Boy, I don't have the specifics of Florida's law. Well, they passed it. Governor Scott hasn't signed it yet, I understand.
They had a lower threshold than we did, a lower age limit is my understanding, so they're raising it higher, but they're also raising it to 21.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.